Hello, and welcome to episode 22 of The Smallest Thing. I'm Lisa Manterfield. Last week, I talked about the issues of preparing for fire season during a pandemic. Before the episode was even edited, we had unprecedented dry lightning storms here in California. If you're listening from a lovely damp climate, dry lightning comes from a thunderstorm with all the drama but none of the rain. Over the span of 72 hours, more than 10,000 lightning strikes were recorded in California. Now, as I record this episode, we are sitting beneath a smoke-filled sky as several wildfires burn in the region. We are safe and not currently under evacuation warning, so for that, I'm grateful. So this week, I want to turn things around and look at what's good in the world. I'll talk about my own pandemic silver linings later, but first, Aiden comes to talk to Em and arrives with a very special gift in this week's episode of The Smallest Thing. Welcome to the serialized audiobook, The Smallest Thing, written by Lisa Manterfield, read for you by Charlie Sanderson.
Chapter 22. Later that morning I head down to Bubble City to see Deb. The village looks a little brighter today, as if the dark cloud of fear and tragedy that hangs over us has lifted just a hair. There are 3 ambulances outside Bubble City. 3 more people are leaving for Elmington, free of the virus and free to resume their lives. Every day, the number of survivors increases, while the number of new cases falls. We've turned a corner, past the peak of Aiden's bell curve. None of us is out of danger yet, but every day, that danger diminishes a little bit more. Another week or so, and I can finally feel safe again. The one fly in this otherwise sweet-smelling ointment is that, once the virus is done with us, Aiden will be too. We've had news of isolated outbreaks around the country and overseas, all quickly contained, they say. But at some point he'll be called to another community in need, and away he'll go. I only hope I'll get the chance to say goodbye. OK, so that's not my only hope. But I feel guilty about my other hopes, when there are so many things I should be hoping for instead. Like people's survival, like this ending quickly. But the recent turn has me thinking about the future again, and that has me thinking of Aiden, wondering what it would be like to feel him against me, like I almost did the other day, of maybe, please, maybe, seeing him in real life, without that stupid suit. I don't even care what he looks like, although I'm curious, of course. I want to be able to touch his skin, to feel a real warm person, not a plastic-covered being. I want to talk to him and see his facial expressions. I want to know everything about him. I've never known this intense kind of feeling before, not even with Ro. Ro was exciting, and loving him was daring, but the desire to connect with Aiden is different. Inside my gloves, my fingers burn with the need to touch him. I rub them together and try to shake away the thoughts, but 2 steps later they come flooding back in. I float down to Bubble City on my cloud of fantasy and sign in at the visitor check-in tent, as I've done every day since last Thursday. Visiting Deb here is still strange, but it's becoming almost routine. At least here we can talk, unlike at her house, and now she has her phone back, things feel a bit more normal. Wandering around to the back of the enclosure, I text her to let her know I'm here, then wait for her to come out of the low-prob tent. Yesterday, we didn't talk about Aiden, but I don't think I can keep my feelings to myself much longer. Besides, she's bound to work it out for herself sooner or later. I wonder if she'll approve. A few minutes later, my phone pings, but when I look over to the low-prob exit, Deb isn't there. I spin around until I see her. Deb is standing beside the door of tent 2. Inside my mask, my face prickles. Deb has been upgraded. What happened? I text, scurrying over to the fence that separates me from the next enclosure. Even from this distance, I can see her face collapse into tears. Tommy's in the care ward, she replies. He's sick. She nods, reading my text. Now Dad and me are high risk. Why? She looks up and I see her answer. She looks paler than usual. She looks more than tired. I tried to console myself with the thought that if she were sick, she'd be in the care ward too. But I can see in her expressions that she's watching her fate unfold, and I pray she can't see it in mine. I want to tear away the fences that stand between us and run to hug my best friend, to give her some crumb of reassurance and compassion, but I can't. This stupid virus has built walls around each of us, leaving us all to fend for ourselves. If I could have one wish for my birthday, one perfect gift, it would be to hug Deb, to let her know someone cares. I have to go back in now, she texts. Then she looks up and gives me a weak wave. Oh, Peps, I whisper, because I don't know what else to do. I can't tell her what I want to say, and that's, please don't leave me, please don't die. Deb disappears back inside the tent, and a second later my phone pings again. Happy birthday, is all it says. Back at home, I try to distract myself with the Pinky and the Brain extravaganza, but all I can think about is Deb. When something at the window catches my attention, I turn to find Aiden waving at me. For a second I'm startled, as if I'd forgotten there were other people inhabiting my planet. He gestures toward the front door, and I take it he wants to come in. I grab my mask and gloves and all but race into the hallway, all at once thrilled to have company and terrified he's come bearing bad news about Deb. When I throw open the door, he gives me a smile. If he has news, it's not going to be bad. He hurries inside and I wait for him to ask if I'm all right. If I had a penny for every time someone has asked me that in the last few weeks, I could buy a fancy neon sign that blinks, "What do you think?" But Aiden doesn't say anything. Instead, he hands me a bag, and even though I can see right away what it contains, I can't believe it. It's a real, proper bar of chocolate in a purple oblong wrapper. Where did you... I start to ask, but Aiden holds a gloved finger up to his face mask and shakes his head. I hold the chocolate in my hands, feeling its weight, something solid and real, familiar. Then I take it out of the bag and run my hand over the smooth wrapper. It feels like satin to my touch, as if the nerve endings in my fingers have never felt anything so exquisite before. Happy birthday, he says. Thank you, I squeak, although it comes out as nothing more than a whisper. Well, aren't you going to try it? I peel back the wrapper and expose the first row of chocolate, taking care to touch only the foil. I lift my mask, placing my teeth around a single square, and bite. Go on, Aiden says. Eat it. I pull the square of chocolate into my mouth, pressing it upward with my tongue. The sweet flavour tiptoeing across my taste buds and the milky goo oozing against the roof of my mouth. It's not the same as I remember, it's better. It's the taste of real life, of everything I've been missing and of everything I've lost. And as the chocolate dissolves on my tongue, the numbness of the last few weeks falls away too. Something explodes inside me, igniting every cell in my body. Heat rises in my face and my jaw trembles. All of a sudden, the kindness around me is overwhelming. I gasp in a breath, trying to hold it all together. And then Aiden holds something else toward me. It's a square bag of folded yellow fabric that I recognise instantly. I'm a community liaison. He shakes his head. This is sort of contraband. You can't let anyone see it. What's it for then? I ask. Emergencies. Okay, I say, not grasping what he's telling me. What kinds of emergencies? Well, he says, handing me a folded suit. Emergencies like me. The ache of desire flares up as I understand what he's saying. I shake out the suit, climbing into it as quickly as I can. I secure the hood and sleeves, pulling up my mask around it and snapping the goggles on top. All the while, Aiden gives instructions. I laugh at the irony of hurrying to get dressed to touch someone, especially when I am sure I look like a giant wrinkled lemon in this oversized suit. But finally, I'm ready. Aiden looks nervous, and I feel it too. With this distance between us, we are safe. We both know that, and we both know that being here like this is strictly forbidden. Inside my suit, I feel protected. I have nothing to lose. But Aiden does. I wonder if I've asked too much of him. I wonder if I should let him go while he still has the chance to go back. But then Aiden steps forward and without hesitation wraps his arms around me. He pulls me against the cool, lifeless fabric of his suit, but underneath I'm aware of his body, living, vibrant, real. And that single moment of human touch unleashes everything that has built up inside me. A moan escapes from my chest, followed by a whimper and another until I can't stop. My whole body convulses as sob after sob disappears into the dampening fabric of my mask. I'm aware of his hands against my back and his arms bearing my weight. The cool surface of his face shield rests against the top of my covered head. I wrap my arms around him and pull him toward me, desperate for the warmth of human contact, of someone who cares. But I can't feel it. He is there. I can feel the shape of him, even his strength, but I cannot feel the person, the human being. In that second, I want to rip his suit away just to prove he's really in there. And then his gloved hands rest on my masked cheeks. He lifts up my face until I'm looking into the space where his mouth should be. Through our face shields, I can see his eyes, his tiger eyes, locked on mine. I can read in them the frustration and agony I feel. He wants to know too. He wants to know I am real. He wants to feel that I am a person, not a number, not a statistic, not part of an assignment. But we both know we can't do that. There are only a few thin layers of fabric between us, but it may as well be a continent. The quarantine that keeps me from the outside world may not be physical, but the barrier that keeps me from Aiden is. In time, both will be lifted, but only time and fortune will dictate whether I am here to witness it. Aiden holds my face and rests his face shield against mine. I lift my hands and place them on the sides of his. Then I stretch onto my tiptoes until our eyes are inches apart. All I'd have to do is lift our masks and I could kiss him. The only thing stopping us now is some fabric and plastic. It would be so easy. But that would be level 3 contact. Dangerous. Contagious or not, I can't risk his life, and I know that he will not risk mine. And in that moment, even through the suits and masks, something in him touches me. It's barely a fingerprint of a feeling on my insides, but it's there. And maybe it will be enough to sustain me until this is over. And maybe then, this thing that has bloomed between us will have a chance. I start counting down the days until I can find out.
Welcome back. I hope you enjoyed that episode. When I shared the video of the cuddle curtain in an earlier episode, I thought about this chapter. I have a list of several people I'd love to hug right now, and I look forward to being able to do that in the future. But for now, I thought I'd give this episode a positive spin. In the interviews I've been doing for future episodes, I've been asking my guests a final question. What unexpected silver linings have you found during this pandemic? I won't spoil their answers, but I thought I'd share some of mine with you. After years of trying to talk my mum into video calls, she has started doing WhatsApp video calls with me several times a week. This means I'm talking to her more often than before, and when I called her on her landline last week, she commented on how strange it was to talk to me and not see me. Because I haven't been able to travel, my garden hasn't suffered too much neglect this year. As a result, we've been eating from my vegetable patch every day, with enough surplus to can or freeze for winter. This means I could still be eating homemade, homegrown tomato soup in December. My priorities have floated to the surface as trivial worries have fallen to the wayside. Keeping in touch with family and friends has become a priority. And I've rediscovered the simple pleasure of a surprise in the mail. I've had unexpected notes, cards, magazine clippings, and book mail from friends. It's reminded me to occasionally drop someone a card or a small gift for no other reason than just because. One of my favourite silver linings is the daily videos my husband has been making for his grandchildren. He's been using Snapchat filters to make good morning and good night messages for them every single day since March. They've loved them, and I've had the added bonus of watching the bloopers. Overall, I think I've slowed down during this time. I found myself focusing on one thing at a time instead of trying to juggle 10. We enjoy simple things like packing a lunch and driving to the beach to eat it, or just taking a walk around the neighbourhood to look at people's gardens. I'd love to hear about your pandemic silver linings. I've posted about it on Instagram and Facebook, so please chime in and tell me all about yours. Until next week, be well. Thanks for listening to this episode of The Smallest Thing. To make sure you don't miss next week's episode, you can subscribe now on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and more. If you'd like to support the show, please leave a review and share this series with others you think might enjoy it. If you're on Instagram, tag me there at LisaManterfield_, or follow me on Facebook at author Lisa Manterfield and Twitter at Lisa Manterfield. My newsletter subscribers are always the first to know about my news, events, upcoming releases, giveaways, and more. Sign up for monthly delivery at lisamanterfield.com/subscribe and get your complimentary copy of Love, Loss and Letting Go, 3 of my short stories. Thanks to Justin Joseph for producing and editing this show, and to Ketsa.uk for the music. That's all for this episode. Thanks for listening.